Welcome back to Philosophy Unpacked. Today, we're diving into a powerful section from Nietzsche's Thus Spoke Zarathustra called The 1001 Goals.
That's a very evocative title. It sounds like we're going on a journey. What's the central idea that Zarathustra, Nietzsche's protagonist, discovers?
Exactly. Zarathustra travels through many lands and observes many different peoples, and his biggest discovery is about the concepts of good and bad.
I imagine he found that not everyone agrees on what those words mean. Is that the main point he's trying to get across to us?
That's precisely it. He finds that there is no greater power on earth than the system of good and bad, but it's completely relative to each culture.
So, what's considered a virtue in one place might be seen as a weakness or even a vice in another. Can you give us an example?
He says it plainly. Much that passed for good with one people was regarded with scorn and contempt by another. It's a fundamental clash of values.
And he says this clash leads to a total lack of understanding. One group looks at another and just sees delusion and wickedness instead of a different perspective.
Correct. To explain this, he introduces a beautiful metaphor, the table of excellencies, or a table of values that hangs over every single group of people.
A table of values. So it's like each culture has its own unique 10 commandments or a mission statement that defines what they strive for?
That's a perfect way to put it. This table represents their triumphs and, more importantly, it's the voice of their collective will to power.
Will to power is a huge Nietzschean concept. In simple terms, is that the drive to grow, overcome challenges, and assert one's strength?
Yes, exactly. And this table of values dictates what a culture sees as praiseworthy. Usually, it's whatever they find difficult but necessary for their survival.
So, if a society lives in a harsh desert, their highest good might be enduring hardship and conserving resources, because that's what it takes to survive.
Precisely. He says if you want to understand a people's values, you must understand their needs, their land, their sky, and even their neighbors.
That makes so much sense. Your values are shaped by your environment and the challenges you face, including competition with other groups.
He even gives us some fascinating historical examples. He says for the ancient Greeks, the core value was to always be the foremost and to stand out above others.
That definitely tracks with their focus on heroes, individual glory in battle, and Olympic champions. A culture of striving to be the best.
Then he turns to his own people, the Persians. For them, the highest good was to speak truth and be skillful with bow and arrow.
So a combination of honesty and practical martial skill. Again, that sounds like values born from the needs of their specific society at the time.
He continues with another example, likely referencing the Hebrews, where the key value was to honor father and mother and to do their will from the root of the soul.
That value of deep-seated family obedience and tradition created a very powerful and enduring culture. You can see how that would help a people maintain itself.
And one more, a people who valued fidelity, being willing to risk honor and blood for the sake of loyalty, even in dangerous situations.
That sounds like a warrior culture, maybe the Romans or a Germanic tribe, where unwavering loyalty to your comrades or your leader is the ultimate virtue.
Through all these examples, he builds to his most radical point. Humans gave themselves all their good and bad. We didn't find these values, we created them.
So this is a direct rejection of the idea that morality comes from a god or is a law of nature. He's saying it's a completely human invention.
Completely. He says values did man only assign to things in order to maintain himself. We created meaning. It wasn't just waiting for us to discover.
He even redefines man as the valuator, or the one who evaluates. So our very essence as humans is to be creators of meaning and value.
And this is the crucial part for him. Valuing is creating. The act of placing value on something is what makes it precious. It's the core of creation.
Without that act of value, he says the nut of existence would be hollow. So life would be meaningless unless we actively create and assign meaning to it.
This leads to another key idea. If values change, it's because the creating ones, the people themselves, have changed. A new kind of person creates new values.
And he says that always doth he destroy who have to be a creator. So to build a new system of values, you first have to tear down the old one.
It's a process of creative destruction. Think of the scientific revolution destroying old religious dogmas to create a new way of seeing the world.
That's a great modern parallel. And who were these first creators of values? Was it individuals or something else?
Nietzsche says it was peoples, entire cultures or tribes. The idea of an individual creating their own values is a much more recent development.
So we started with collective or herd morality, where the group's survival was everything, and the ego or the individual was secondary to that.
Exactly. He states that the pleasure in the herd is older than the pleasure in the ego. For a long time, a good conscience meant conforming to the group.
And a bad conscience was associated with the ego, with wanting to go your own way, separate from the herd.
That was seen as selfish. Yes, but he distinguishes between a creative ego and a crafty, loveless ego that just seeks its own advantage. That selfish ego, he says, is the ruin of the herd.
So he's not just saying be selfish. He's talking about a higher form of individualism, one that is creative and value-generating.
This brings Zarathustra back to his travels. He saw all these lands and peoples and concluded that the greatest power is this human creation of good and bad.
But he seems to see it as a problem, too. He calls it a prodigy of power, but also an animal with 1,000 necks that needs a fetter or a leash.
That's the final crucial problem he presents. There have been 1,000 peoples, and therefore 1,000 different goals and sets of values.
But what's missing is the fetter for the 1,000 necks. What does he mean by that? Is he looking for one single value system to rule them all?
Not necessarily to rule them, but to unite them. He says there is lacking the one goal. As yet, humanity hath not a goal.
So we have goals for our nations, our cultures, our tribes, but no single overarching goal for humanity as a whole. We're all pulling in different directions.
And this leads him to his final, very provocative question, which is really the climax of the entire chapter and a challenge to the reader.
I'm on the edge of my seat. What is the final question that he leaves us with?
He asks, if the goal of humanity be still lacking, is there not also still lacking humanity itself?
Wow. So he's suggesting that until we have a common unifying purpose, we aren't truly a single humanity. We're just a collection of 1,000 different peoples.
That is the profound and unsettling question he leaves us with. It challenges us to think beyond our local values and consider what a goal for all of humanity might look like.